section 3.1, we talked about any old lines cut by a transversal. This section, we're going to talk specifically about parallel lines cut by a transversal. We can say in this section, if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then corresponding angles are congruent. So we would know any pair of corresponding angles are congruent. Now if you were going to write this in a proof, you would want to be able to shortcut. So your shortcut would be if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, corresponding angles are congruent. We also know in this section that if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, alternate interior angles are congruent. So we would look at alternate interior angles are congruent. Notice that we have the arrow symbol on both lines to show they are parallel. So we have if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, alternate interior angles are congruent. Hopefully you could write it all in one line. Also, if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, alternate exterior angles are congruent. So we would have an alternate exterior angle signs congruent. Again, we have the parallel line symbol. And we would write if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate exterior angles are congruent. And last in this section, if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, we have same side interior angles are supplementary. We sometimes say same side supplemental, and sometimes we say consecutive angles. So we have two angles here. They're not congruent. They add to 180 degrees. So we would say if two lines are parallel and cut by a transversal, we can say same side supplemental. Your book also uses consecutive. Here we have an example. It says the measure of three of the numbered angles is 55 degrees. Identify the angles. If you know this angle is 55 degrees, you know that this angle is 55 degrees because of vertical angles. If angle 3 is 55 degrees, angle 6 is 55 degrees because the two 55 degrees because these are parallel lines, so we know that alternate interior angles are congruent. And again, we have vertical angles 6 and 7. So we have angles 3, 6, and 7 are all 55 degrees. Here we have find the value of x. This is what we call algebra in geometry. We can see that these are two corresponding angles, so we know they are congruent. So we know that x minus 30 degrees equals 135 degrees. So x is going to equal, adding 30 to each side, 165 degrees. We can use these parallel line cut by a transversal theorem in lots of ways. Let's look at a proof in the next video. Please go to video B.
So what's the microphone used?